The sun hammered down on the training grounds, relentless among the rows of students in crisp uniforms, the campus beauty. The one who'd trailed Ethan all the way to this university. Suddenly crumpled without a second thought, he was on his knees, tilting her head back, sealing her lips with his to force air into her lungs. I told him I wanted to break up. His gaze was distant, detached, as though I were staging yet another scene. She fakes a faint, I said, voice trembling, and you're there with your tongue down her throat. Ethan only gave a slight, careless nod. Fine, my fault, I'll let you cool off. Just like always for 3 days, he'd let me rage and cry, certain I'd return. But this time I didn't. I blocked his number, every social thread severed. I applied to switch majors, altered my route to class, avoided every corner he might occupy. I was done fighting. When I'd whispered the words, "Let's break up," his back was turned. He was watching Haley stumble away toward the infirmary, cheeks flushed, a shy smile playing on her lips as their classmates hooted and teased. The heat was brutal, the wind dry and cutting. Ethan stood there in his camouflage, short hair ruffled, the line of his jaw sharp enough to hurt an eye, in the worst possible moment, breathed the words so softly the wind stole them before they could reach him. He turned. "What?" "Let's break up," I repeated. Ethan arched his brows. "You're making a scene again just because I gave Haley mouth to mouth. Was her spit that sweet?" I don't know what expression I had. All I felt was disgust. His face darkened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It's not the first time she's faked fainting, and it's not the first time you stuck your tongue out, is it?" I wanted my voice to sound sharp, but the words came out with an edge of tears I couldn't control. How could I not cry? We'd known each other for 10 years, been together for 3, from inseparable friends to a couple closer than family. We had long since been bound together, and yet I was the one choosing to let go. Ethan's gaze flickered. He let out a breath that sounded half helpless, half irritated, then raised his hand to rub my head. "It wasn't me sticking out my tongue. Haley pulled it, and she pretended so well that I fell for it again, and it was true. Haley's act was too convincing. She had plenty of practice ever since she'd fallen for Ethan at first sight in high school. She tried everything to get close to him. Ethan rejected her over and over, but she never gave up, even scheming little tricks during the school sports meet. After the long run, she deliberately fainted by his side, forcing him to save her. That was their first kiss. The second time was during mock exams. Nervous, Haley fainted again, and Ethan reasonably got fooled. The third time was on the graduation trip. Halfway up the mountain, she fainted once more, and now it was the 4th time. Anyone could see she was pretending. But Ethan still fell for it without hesitation. I couldn't hold back a bitter, mocking laugh, the sound hollow and desolate. Some things don't need explaining. We both knew the truth. I turned to leave, but Ethan caught my hand. "Eva, wait. Let me finish. I know you hate Haley at first. I hated her too. I thought she was calculating and fake, but gradually I realized she's passionate and persistent, willing to give up everything for me, especially with her college applications. Her dream school was Nanjing University and her favorite major was medicine, but for me, she came to Fudan instead and even chose finance, same as us. Ethan, I won't fall in love with her, but I am touched, so I treat her like a younger sister. She deserves me treating her that way. That's why I don't blame her for faking faints to trick me. Sometimes she's just quirky like that. I hope you can be more generous. Just a little more generous." I wiped at the corner of my eye with a self-mocking smile, and suddenly I remembered, I don't even like finance. I like foreign languages. It had always been that wherever Ethan went, I would go. Whatever he did, I would do too. Everything about that had long become routine. So ordinary it felt insignificant, but if it were Haley doing the same things, it was suddenly extraordinary. She could even be called his little sister. How noble of him. "Next time, maybe make that mouth-to-mouth last longer." I yanked my hand out of Ethan's grip without looking back. He grew annoyed, but didn't chase after me, only nodded impatiently. "Fine, waste of words. Go ahead. Throw your tantrum. I'll give you 3 days again. Is that enough?" He added angrily. I knew him too well. When he got angry, nothing mattered anymore. He wouldn't coax me. He would just wait for me to cave in on my own, and he knew me too well. He knew I couldn't keep it up for long. After all, I had a precedent once when I was drunk. I managed to ignore him for 7 days, and that had already been my limit by then. I had broken down in tears, admitted I was wrong, and fallen back into his arms, swearing I never wanted to leave him again. Sometimes I hated myself for being so weak, for lacking the courage to leave Ethan, but every time I steeled myself, the memory would return of him as a boy, still childish, dragging me as blood streamed down my face. Running with me under a streetlight behind us was my drunken father, clutching a gleaming kitchen knife and shouting, "I'll kill you, you worthless brat. You're trash just like your mother." She ran, and now you dare to run too. I hadn't dared to run. It was Ethan who ran with me. We hid in a pitch-black alley, his still scrawny chest pressed against me protectively, whispering that I shouldn't be afraid later. He grew up taller, stronger. He didn't have to run with me anymore. He raised an iron bar instead, striking my father's head again and again until blood poured and the knife slipped uselessly from his hand. Maybe that's why I could never leave Ethan to me. He had once been such a dazzling boy, but now there was no light left on him, only the trace of another girl's pit between his lips and teeth. When I got back to the dorm, I showered and calmed down a little, starting to seriously consider switching majors. I didn't want to be in the same department in classes as Ethan and Haley. I didn't even want to study finance. I wanted foreign languages. I wanted to learn something I truly loved, but then I remembered what Ethan had said to me before the college entrance exam. Sitting by the window swearing confidently, "Alva, study finance with me. One day I'll start my own company and be the CEO, and you'll be the CEO's wife." I didn't know if studying finance really meant starting a company, but I always listened to Ethan and I did want to be his CEO's wife too bad. I couldn't be anymore. My chest twisted with pain. Almost at the same time, a figure hurried into the dorm. It was Haley. Her high ponytail swaying, she grabbed my arm anxiously. "Eva, you broke up with Ethan, didn't you? He just told me at dinner." He seemed really upset, but I caught that fleeting spark of glee in her eyes. I wasn't stupid. I simply sat there quietly watching her perform. She kept talking. "Oh, it's all my fault. My body's so weak. I actually fainted from heat stroke. And Ethan, why did he have to do mouth to mouth? Doesn't he realize how misleading that looks?" She chattered on her face full of guilt, but she couldn't hide the glow of triumph underneath. My stomach turned. I tore her mask away directly. "That's enough. Drop the act." She froze, then forced a look of fragile caution. "Eva, do you misunderstand me somehow?" I gave her a glance. I said, "Drop the act. You've pulled it off. You got the guy and shoved me out. You can laugh openly now." Haley's expression shifted wildly until she couldn't keep up the act anymore. Suddenly, she laughed out loud. "So rude. But I guess I can understand. You never had a mother, so no one ever taught you manners." My hand froze. My mom couldn't take my father's abuse, so when I was very young, she ran away. That left me alone to face him. It was a secret buried deep in my heart when I had never told anyone else. Only Ethan knew, and he had never once said a word about it. Well, looks like I hit a nerve. Sorry about that. Guess I struck your weak spot. Oh, by the way, Ethan's the one who told me," Haley said with a gleeful smile. "Back in senior year during the mock exam. Remember, I fainted from nerves. Ethan gave me mouth to mouth and then you threw a fit and ignored him for 7 days. He was so upset he vented to me. Said you grew up without a mom, so that's why you've got such a bad temper." He was right, wasn't he? I pressed my lips tightly together, then suddenly lifted my hand and slapped Haley across the face. She froze on the spot, covering her cheek in disbelief. Before I could tell her to get out, she spun and ran from the room, eyes red with tears. I thought she might go to the police instead. She went straight to Tattletale. Not long after, Ethan stopped me in the cafeteria. His face was dark as water, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Come with me right now and apologize to Haley." In the 10 years I had known him, it was the first time Ethan had ever scolded me so harshly. I pressed my lips together and let out a bitter laugh. "Do you know what she said to me?" Ethan drew a deep breath, his gaze still ice cold. "I don't care what she said. You were wrong to hit her. She came to this school for me. She gave up her dream university, gave up the major she loved." He paused, staring straight into my eyes. "And Haley accepted my suggestion to treat me like her brother. She was even willing to treat you as her sister and bless us with happiness forever. She never wanted to fight with you, but you insulted her again and again, pushed her away, and today you even slapped her." Each word from Ethan was like a steel blade cutting into me. At last, "Eva, do you really not think you're wrong?" I stood there in silence, my chest weighed down with exhaustion, like a mountain pressing me into. Was I really wrong? All I did was hate a shameless girl who kept clinging to my boyfriend. I lifted my chin, ready to argue back, but when I saw Ethan's face, colder than I had ever seen before, the words stuck in my throat. All that was left was emptiness and fatigue. 3 years. I was truly tired. I didn't want to fight anymore. "No, I wasn't wrong, so let's break up," I said, turning away with a surprising calm. I thought I would cry like I had the first time I brought it up after military training. But I didn't. "So you really want to fight me on this to the end?" Ethan shook his head, disappointment flooding his voice. "I said before I'd give you 3 days to throw your tantrum. Looks like that's not enough. Take 7 days. Reflect on yourself after 7 days. Apologize to Haley." He didn't say what would happen if I refused. He just left decisive and final. I knew what the consequences would be. 7 days was already the limit I could bear. I had never been able to live without Ethan, and he knew it too. He had never had the heart to stay away from me for 7 whole days, but this time, if I still refused to apologize after 7 days, he would make me taste what it was like to be apart for 8 days, 10 days, a month, or even to break up completely. I stared at his retreating back, something hot rising in my eyes, but in the end, no tears fell. Ethan. 7 days is too long. 3 days is enough for me to change my major and leave you behind completely. The process of applying to change majors wasn't complicated. After talking it over with my advisor, my request was approved. I could move to the foreign languages department. The foreign languages classrooms and dorms were all the way on the west side, as far as possible from finance. They even had their own cafeteria in the West Gate commercial district nearby. Under normal circumstances, I could go my entire college life without ever crossing paths with finance again. The next day after I moved into my new dorm, I let out a sigh of relief. After a brief moment of confusion, I dug up an old childhood dream from the back of my mind. I wanted to be a diplomat. When I was a little girl, I'd seen women diplomats on walking with confidence, exuding strength and grace. I thought it was so cool and longed to be like them. Maybe it was also my subconscious way of breaking away from the shadow of my father, the timid girl inside my heart, to become a strong and fearless diplomat. Later, when I told Ethan about my dream, he had pinched my nose playfully and said, "Being a diplomat isn't easy, it's exhausting. You should just be my wife instead." And I had thought, fine, I'll just be your wife after all. You can protect me for the rest of my life. Who would have thought that the rest of my life would vanish like an illusion? I let out a self-mocking laugh. Now I had to protect myself for some reason. A wave of burning strength rose deep inside. May immediately looked up materials, planning my life, overflowing with energy. By the time I collapsed on my bed, it was already midnight. On WeChat, I saw several new messages, all from Ethan's account, but looking closer, I realized they had been sent by Haley. The first was a video in it. Haley was holding up a drunk Ethan as they walked down the street. Ethan's words were slurred. "Eva, I don't need you anymore. Go ahead and be mad at me. Stingy girl." Haley gave a bitter smile beside him. "I'm not Ava, I'm your sister." Haley. Ethan froze, then instinctively pushed her away. "Haley, what are you doing? My head hurts." The video ended there. Then came a message from Haley. "Eva, Ethan is drunk. I brought him to a hotel. The address is Eastgate Vienna Hotel, room 307. Come quickly." Maybe because I didn't reply, Haley sent another message 10 minutes later. "Eva, are you still mad? I'm so sorry. It's my fault for causing a rift between you and Ethan. But right now it's serious. You need to come take care of him. He's been calling your name the whole time." And then he touched me. It made me so shy. My heart clenched painfully, irritation surging inside. May knew this was just my instinctive reaction. I had never truly let Ethan go in the past. Whenever I got angry and saw other girls talking to him, my chest would ache. As if I were about to lose him completely. I couldn't lose him, and now with Ethan and Haley alone in a hotel room, touching maybe more, I couldn't stay calm. This must be what withdrawal feels like. I bit down hard on my tongue. I let the sting in my tongue ease the turmoil in my chest, then blocked Ethan and deleted every way he could reach me in that moment. The irritation finally sank away. I shifted my focus, watching videos of women diplomats, sharp, eloquent, commanding every room. Their words were like weapons, their presence unstoppable. I drifted into sleep soon after, and to my surprise, it was a sweet, deep sleep. In the past, whenever I went through withdrawal from Ethan, I'd suffer sleepless nights. I'd stare at my phone over and over, hoping he would reach out first, hoping he would soften, but he never did. He only ever gave me deadlines: 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, and when the deadline came, it was always Muho had to bow my head and admit fault. Yet this time, sleeping felt far more comforting than apologizing. In the days that followed, I threw myself into my new plan. Every spare moment I had, I went straight to the library, poring over materials. I sought out professors on my own and asked questions. At last, I built a complete plan for my college years: which language tracks to take, the combined programs I would apply for, the international association I would join, even which graduate schools I might pursue. This vast and detailed plan consumed all my energy, and for a while, I almost forgot about Ethan. It was my roommate, Lily, who brought him up again. Unexpectedly, she showed me a video from the campus singing competition. 2 people had become famous from it: Haley and Ethan. In the clip, the two of them sang a love duet, gazing into each other's eyes, their good looks amplified by the tenderness of the song. They instantly went viral. I stared at the video, my heart calm without waves. I had originally planned to join that singing competition. The one standing beside Ethan should have been me now. Everyone was calling them the most beautiful couple, but somehow I felt Ethan seemed distracted. His eyes drifted now, and Thena's, if he were searching for someone in the audience. Lily, our dorm's gossip queen, noticed details that others missed. See, his eyes are wandering. I bet he was looking for you. She Sadie only hummed in response, but I knew she was right. No one knew Ethan better than I did. He was distracted, probably searching for me, wondering if I had come to watch, if I would still hold out. but I had long since forgotten the singing contest. I didn't care anymore. I stayed focused on my own life until the seventh day. I was in the cafeteria late at night, eating a small meal while reading a figure. Sat down across from May, looked up, and there was Ethan, eyes heavy, locked on me. His tone carried a restrained frustration. 7 days, and you still won't admit fault. Haven't you made enough of a scene? The words made me falter for a moment because they dragged me back to every reconciliation before me, crying, my body trembling, begging humbly, Ethan, it's been 7 days. I'll stop now. Let's make up no matter the number of days. It always ended the same, me sobbing, pleading, and Ethan, as if he had known. All along, still loving me, still pulling me into his arms with indulgence. Good girl, don't make a scene any more. In that moment, I'd feel reborn, overwhelmed with joy. For so many years, it had always been this way, but this time was different. This time, Ethan was the one to ask, have you had enough? I set down my chopsticks, smiled calmly, and said I wasn't making a scene. If you weren't, then come back to me. Restore me on Wetchetand. Explain why you changed your major. Ethan was furious when he found out I had changed my major. His brows were furrowed so tightly they seemed carved into his face. We agreed to study finance together. He said, when I start my company, I'll be the CEO and you'll be the CEO's wife. That was our promise. I used to think that was romantic. Now it just felt childish. I shook my head when I said I wasn't making a scene. I meant that we've already broken up. Ethan dismissed my words as if they meant nothing. Is this because of that duet I sang with Haley? Are you even angrier now? His expression held a trace of guilt, but he pressed on, you the one making a fuss. I had no choice but to sing with Haley. If you're angry, you should be angry at yourself. The truth, Wasi had long forgotten about the singing competition. It didn't matter anymore. That's it. Goodbye, I said, gathering my things to leave. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Eva, 7 days still isn't enough for you. Just tell me, how many more days do you need before you'll finally apologize to Haley? He still expected me to apologize to her. I clutched my book, packed up my food, and walked away. Remember this, Ethan? We've already broken up. His anger boiled over. Fine. If that's what you want, don't regret it. He turned on his heel and stormed off. It seemed like this was the first time we had ever officially said the words break up, yet I felt an excessive calmness. I looked down at the book in my hands and suddenly it struck me, matters between men and women really weren't worth all the fuss. 7 days of drama. Then a clean break. My heart felt brighter, lighter. I buried myself in business. I studied not just English and French, but also began reading the international section of the People's Daily. In depth, I joined the International Relations Association, working with upper-class-men in simulated diplomacy exercises. Every moment of my time was filled with the pursuit of my dream. I had no space left for anything else. Only sometimes in the quiet of the night, I would dream of my childhood, of my mother's trembling shoulders, of my father's shouting curses, and of that young boy with a determined face, pulling me along, holding me, whispering, don't be afraid, I'll protect you. I would jolt awake, eyes wide in the dark dorm room, instinctively searching for the boy I had once loved so deeply. Then as autumn leaves cooled the night, I would fall into a brief spell of sleeplessness. Truly, you shouldn't meet someone too dazzling when you're young, but it didn't matter anymore. He wasn't dazzling to me now, and I would keep looking forward. The days that followed were calm beyond measure. I focused on my studies, moving between classrooms, the library, and the association in a steady rhythm. A whole semester slipped by. My life passed quietly, unnoticed by anyone. Ethan, on the other hand, had become a campus star with his brilliance and academics, natural talent, and striking looks. Wherever he went, crowds turned their heads. He and Haley often appeared together, the two of them publicly recognized as a couple. Though they never officially confirmed it, sometimes I would unexpectedly cross paths with Ethan. I always avoided him immediately. Every encounter felt unnecessary, but after enough time, it was impossible to avoid being seen. When he did catch sight of me, he would stop in his tracks and watch me with ease, full of pride, but also complicated emotion. Anger was there, yes, but beneath it, hidden, was a weariness not easily noticed. I only smiled faintly and took another path. By sophomore year, I began to shine in a prestigious English debate competition. I defeated a formidable opponent with calm poise and won first prize. The school widely publicized my win and my photo appeared on the bulletin board. I went to take a look and saw many students reading about me and my story. To my surprise, Ethan was there too. He stood at the front silently scanning the report about me around him. People chattered, "Wow, Eva is incredible." I watched the debate in person. She completely cornered that opponent from Jiao Tong with just a few sentences. I saw it too. Her spoken English is amazing. I'm in the same major, but when I speak, it sounds like a rusty tractor leaking oil. She makes me feel hopeless. So her name's Ava, huh? I noticed her a while ago. She goes to the library every day without fail. I'd see her from the classroom corridor. Looks like we've got someone secretly In love as the group gossiped, Ethan squeezed his way out of the crowd without a word, then he saw me, our eyes met, froze. But I quickly looked away and walked off, his lips pressed together, his body leaning forward instinctively as if to follow, but in the end, he didn't. In the second semester of sophomore year, I became even busier. I started volunteering at international expos. It wasn't just good for building courage, and practicing spoken English. Some major expos also gave me valuable experience, all of which laid the foundation for becoming a diplomat. With days like that, I had almost no time or energy left to think about anything else. Only once did something break through. My abusive father called, yelling about how long I'd been away from home, cursing, asking if I was planning to die out there. I didn't know what he wanted at first, but in that moment, the fear buried deep inside me came flooding back. My whole body shook. Later in the conversation, I realized what he really wanted: money. He asked if I had a scholarship. My tuition was already paid by my grandmother, and any scholarship I earned, I saved for myself. I told him I didn't have one. He cursed me for a long while before hanging up, while I sat there with my face covered in tears, gasping for breath. That night I had a nightmare. I dreamed I was running through fog while my father shouted behind me. I cried in terror until a young boy appeared, carrying me on his back, running and telling me not to be afraid, that he would protect me. Jolted awake, and before I could stop myself, I shouted Ethan's name. Ethan, where are you? When I realized what I'd done, I stared at the empty ceiling, despair washing over me. Ava, you're still not strong enough. You have to keep pushing forward. From then on, I studied with even more intensity, determined to reach my goal. In junior year, I started preparing early for graduate school. I was going to apply to the School of International Relations because I had built such a solid foundation. The exams worked too difficult for me. A year later, I was admitted to the International Relations program at Beijing Foreign Studies University, officially becoming a graduate student. My achievements were so outstanding that the school publicized me again. Everyone knew I had gotten into PSU. That very day, I saw Ethan again. Over the years, I had occasionally heard about him winning awards, serving as a student ambassador, always achieving something remarkable, but I never looked into details. This time, we met on the track. I had gone for a walk and he found me there. He didn't speak right away, just stared for a long time. Then he finally said, Ava, you've lost weight. I nodded. Yes, I've lost weight, I admitted, and then there was only silence. Time is a wonderful thing. It can smooth over so much old resentments, childish grudges. At least for me, those things from the past seemed so petty now, not even worth half of what my dream meant to me. Broke the silence. First, I have something to do. I'll be going. Ethan finally spoke again, his voice solemn. Are you busy every day? Yes, I answered. He smiled faintly. I figured. I know you're always busy. I've been watching you all these years, you know. He pointed toward the shaded path in the distance. Every morning at 8:15, you walk down that path. Sometimes you're holding a steamed bun, rushing to the library, and over there, that he gestured at the first floor of the administration building. That's where the International Relations Association has its base. You go every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, sometimes on weekends, too. All on your own, and the bench by the volleyball court, that's where you rest. Most often you sit and read, sometimes a French textbook, sometimes a book on diplomacy. He knew everything, every detail, as if he had memorized my days better than I had. Some of it I hadn't even noticed about myself. I stared at him quietly as his eyes reddened. Ava, I never left you. You left me. I just don't understand how something so small could stay lodged in your heart for 4 years. Something so small. He said 4 years of distance over something so small. I lowered my head slightly, feeling the northern wind brushed cold against my ears. The air was turning chilly. Wanted to leave, but my feet didn't move. Ethan was waiting for my answer, staring stubbornly like a desperate animal cornered. This was the same boy who once demanded I apologize or we'd break up, and yet now he had compromised. But Ethan, it's far too late. I exhaled softly. What about Haley? How are things between you two? I still see her as a sister. All those rumors outside are. We were never together, he said quickly, almost like he was trying torn points to prove that the only one he ever loved was me. I smiled, a little relieved. 4 years plus 3 years in high school. You've been calling her your sister for 7 years now. My smile lingered, but there was bitterness in it. You studied with this sister, ate with her, went shopping, traveled, even shared a hotel room. You kissed her because of her. I threw fits over and over. 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. I've been through it all, and you always let me throw those fits. My smile faded, my eyes growing quiet. Ethan, do you remember the high school sports meet back in sophomore year? That was the first time Haley faked fainting, the first time you gave her mouth to mouth. Do you remember? I was really deceived back then. Haley went way too far. Ethan tried to explain it wasn't like that. I shook my head and continued. After that first time, I only threw a fit for 3 days, even though the first time was the most painful, the Hardest to accept. I only held out 3 days, do you know why? Why? Ethan looked genuinely confused. I rolled up my sleeve and showed him the scar on my left wrist. A thin, pale line that had never faded. His pupils contracted sharply as he grabbed my hand tight. What is this? Who hurt you? It was during those 3 days. I was upset, I said, late at night. I couldn't stop crying. I woke my father. I remembered it vividly. My fingers trembling as I spoke. My father had dragged me up, thrown me into the bathtub and used a fruit knife to cut open my wrist. He yelled at me. Why are you crying? You're just as annoying as your mother. My mother had once slit her wrists after she couldn't bear his abuse anymore, and so he told me to do the same. Better off dead. I bled a lot, but I didn't dare cry. The cold set in, so cold that it seeped into my bones. All I could think was how much better it would be if you were there, Ethan, so you could grab my hand and run with me again. My tears came with a bitter smile later. When my father finally passed out, I crawled out to find a neighbor for help. At that time, I had wanted to look for you. But then I saw your midnight post on social media. You had tied Haley's high ponytail with your own hands. He wrote, bought hair ties for the little girl at the night market. She looks best with a high ponytail after that. Haley always wore her hair up like that. When I finished, I wiped at the corners of my eyes. There weren't many tears left. Ethan's face had turned pale and his grip on my hand grew painfully tight. I pulled free, sliding my scar back under my sleeve, and my voice returned to calm. That's why I only threw a fit for 3 days back then. Because I was terrified of my father. I had to get back to you as soon as possible. The later times, 5 days, 7 days, those were easier. My father wasn't beating me as often. Than a few hits. I could endure endless nights of sleeplessness. I could manage. You get used to it. The calmer my tone became, the whiter Ethan's face grew. He looked at me in disbelief, unable to accept it, and yet he couldn't form a single word. I thought for a moment, then guided the conversation. Since I'm leaving, let me make something clear to you. Do you know why I refused to apologize to Haley that day? She came to me and mentioned my mother. She said I was rude because I never had a mother to teach me manners. That's why I slapped her. It was that simple. I told him the truth. Ethan's lips trembled as his fists clenched tight. She used your mother to humiliate you. I nodded. Yes, and that secret that I never had a mother was only known by you and me. You were the one who told her. You told her my bad temper came from not having a mother. Ethan's eyes flew wide, bloodshot, filled with both fury and helplessness. His voice cracked, trembling. I didn't mean it like that. I was frustrated. I wanted you to stop throwing tantrums. Haley provoked me, and I blurted it out. I didn't think so. It really was you who told her. I said, my eyes fixed on him, on this man who had pulled me from fire and water so many times, who had once been the most dazzling boy I knew. Why was there no light left on him now? I turned to leave. Ethan stood in the darkness, his body swaying as if he might collapse at any moment. When I was far enough away, his broken sobs reached me. Ava, we promised one day I'd start a company. I'd be the CEO, and you'd be the CEO's wife. Don't you remember? I remember, Dan. I thought it was childish, but I didn't answer. Life at the International Relations School of PSA was anything but easy as a graduate student. I had endless responsibilities. Becoming a diplomat was no simple matter. Debate, competitions in diplomacy, volunteer work, interpreting dense accents, embassy internships during holidays. Every step demanded immense energy. I had to compete and collaborate with the best of the best. It was like 1,000 troops crossing a single plank bridge. One wrong step, and I'd be left behind forever. Fortunately, my talent and stubbornness carried me through each trial. After graduation, I sat for the national exam, my eyes locked firmly on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and once again I passed with ease. That was when I officially stepped into the diplomatic system. The road ahead was long, but I was no longer afraid. After my initial assignment at the Buenos Aires Bureau, I was sent overseas and stationed with colleagues in a war-torn country for 3. Those were extraordinarily harsh years, yet they became the sharpest whetstone that shaped me. Sometimes when I looked at the corpses in the distance gnawed by dogs, I would think of my abusive father. What was he compared to this? His kitchen knife and fists were nothing against the machetes and guns I saw daily. After that, I never had nightmares about him again. When I returned home, I was promoted 3 ranks, a significant step forward in my life. By then, I had grown much thinner, more seasoned, carrying a certain chill wherever I went. My colleagues often said he looked like a war correspondent, sharp and untouchable. When I looked in the mirror, I shamelessly nodded to myself. Yes, I really did look that sharp on break. I bought gifts and went back to my hometown to visit my grandmother, giving her plenty of money for spending. Afterward, I returned to my father's house. In the past, I had dreaded coming back. Just reaching the doorstep would make my legs weak, unable to look directly at that door. But now when I looked at it, it felt like nothing more than an ordinary door. I walked up and knocked. My father opened it, reeking of alcohol. Years had passed, and he had grown weaker, his back bent, his eyes clouded. He didn't recognize me right away, but instinctively sensed I was not someone to provoke, so he gave a polite, nervous smile. "Excuse me. Who are you looking for?" I said nothing, just stared at him. Images flashed in my mind. Each one of him beating Mimi father shifted uneasily under my gaze, almost trembling. As he forced another smile, "Young lady, who are you looking for?" "I'm Ava," I said flatly. "I came back to pick up some things." I walked inside. He hesitated at the door before finally following, staring at me closely, his expression flickering with unease. I ignored him, gathered a few belongings, and took my mother's photo at last. He spoke. "Ava, are you working now?" "Where do you work?" "The Ministry of Foreign Affairs." I answered casually. He froze, stunned, then lit up with surprise and excitement. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. Get out of my way." I shoved him aside with my backpack. He stiffened, his face shifting between pale and flushed, but he didn't dare get angry. Instead, he became even more ingratiating. "That's great, really great. Work hard. Make good money in the future. Get out." I snapped again. Storming out of the house, he trailed behind, awkwardly waving as if to send me off, calling out with forced cheer. After leaving, I returned to my alma mater and unexpectedly ran into my old roommate, Lily. She had gone on to pursue her doctorate and now worked as a lecturer, impressively accomplished. I praised her, but she shot it back at me. "You're the amazing one. A diplomat. You'll be on TV sooner or later, and when you're facing the Americans, don't go easy on them." I burst out laughing, playfully punched her arm, and she laughed too, before bringing up Ethan. "Remember that campus star? Ethan. He was actually your boyfriend, wasn't he? You hid it from us so well." I frowned. "How did you know?" She rolled her eyes. "After you went to PSU, Ethan completely broke things off with Haley. She went mad. She chased him for so long, gave everything, only to end up with nothing. So she did something crazy." Lily smirked, clearly enjoying the gossip she posted all over major campus forums about everything she'd done for Ethan. She outright called herself a lovesick fool, a girl who gave him all her devotion for nothing in the end. Haley was cruelly abandoned. Public opinion turned fierce. Many people sympathized with her and lashed out at Ethan, but Ethan responded with only one sentence. Lily stopped talking, then smirking at me. "Go on." I urged. She cleared her throat and continued. "He said he only ever loved Eva. He never liked Haley. He told her to respect herself." My head ached at the thought. Later, Haley threatened her life, saying if Ethan wouldn't take her back, she'd die in front of him. She jumped into the river more than once. Each time, Ethan could only call the police. One time, she hit her head on a rock and ended up a vegetable. She's still lying in a hospital bed. What a tragedy," Lily muttered. I fell silent, unwilling to hear more. Lily grabbed my arm. "Don't you want to know how Ethan's doing? He's been waiting for you all this time." I shook my head, said goodbye, and left. 2 more years passed. I was promoted again, and the workload became much heavier, though I thrived on it. When I grew tired, I'd return home for a short rest. This time on my way back, I ran into Ethan. It was on the same narrow road where my father once chased me with a knife. I saw Ethan in a tailored suit standing at the entrance of that shabby alley, gazing mournfully at the narrow passage inside the very place we used to hide. Before I could look away, he seemed to sense me. His weary eyes suddenly lit. "You panned." Almost immediately he called my name. "Ava." I smiled faintly and nodded. "Ethan, it's been a long time." Flustered, his handsome face flushed. He scratched his head, tugged at his tie, and stumbled over his words. "Ava, you're back." I only looked at him quietly. It took him a while to calm down, though his eyes remained red when he shook my hand. His palm was drenched in sweat. We were both in our 30s now, yet he acted like a teenager. I had no desire to linger by his side after the handshake. I prepared to leave at last. He pushed past his nervousness, blurting out, "Ava, don't go yet. You've changed so much. You really became a diplomat." "Yes," I said simply, glancing at my watch to show I had little time. Ethan caught my signal and rushed to the point. "Eva, do you remember our old promise? I'd be a CEO and you'd be the CEO's wife. I started a company. It's already gone public. My net worth is over 100 million. No EV. Become that CEO. I want to invite you to be my CEO's wife. Will you?" He had no choice but to be direct because I wasn't giving him more time. I looked at the man who once filled my youth with infinite dreams and I spoke slowly. "Ethan, don't you understand? You don't need to be anyone's CEO's wife anymore." His face grew pale as chalk. He muttered under his breath, "Eva, you still hate me, don't you? You hate that I gave Haley mouth to mouth. You hate that I forced you to apologize to her." I shook my head, my voice soft. "Ethan, I stopped hating you a long time ago." His bloodless face regained some color, excitement flooding his features. "Then we can to me. You're just a stranger now." I cut him off. "How could I possibly hate a stranger?" I checked my watch and took a step forward. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. I have to go." Ethan stood frozen in place, his entire body stiff. Unable to move. It was as if he were a withered old tree, and in the end, that tree collapsed to the ground, letting out a mournful cry years later. I finally appeared on television with my cold presence and sharp style. I quickly rose to fame. It was something I hadn't anticipated. But in the end, it was a good thing. As for Ethan, I heard that he never recovered all his years off persistence, and pride collapsed in an instant. His company went bankrupt, and he never did become a CEO, and I never became his CEO's wife. But what did that matter? I had become a strong and independent diplomat, moving forward against the wind, carving my own epilogue. Ethan, I never thought losing her would feel like this, like the air had been sucked out of my lungs, like every step I take sinks me deeper into regret for years. I told myself Eva would always come back. She used to throw her tantrums, disappear for 3 days, 5 days, even 7 days, but in the end, she always returned to me. I counted on that. I was arrogant enough to believe I was the one exception in her life, the anchor she could never let go of, but I was wrong. The day she looked me in the eye and told me I was nothing more than a stranger, I felt my entire world collapse. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, but that calm cut sharper than any knife. I had thought she hated me, and in some twisted way, that would have been easier. Hatred meant I still mattered, but no, to her, I was already nothing. I replay everything in my head. Those stupid moments when Haley fainted and I rushed to her side, not once questioning her act, the look in Eva's eyes when she begged me to believe her, when she asked me not to make her apologize. God, how blind was I? I thought I was being fair, being rational, but all I did was wound the only girl who ever loved me with her whole heart. And then the scar, that damned scar on her wrist. When she showed it to me, my blood froze. I wanted to tear myself apart forever. Letting her reach that point, I should have protected her, stood by her. Instead of feeding her pain with my silence, my stubbornness, my foolish pride, I became everything I swore I'd never be: cold, blind, selfish, and she became everything she dreamed of: strong, brilliant, unstoppable. I watched from the shadows. She rose higher and higher, her name shining in headlines, her face broadcasted on national television. She stood there with that calm, commanding presence, the kind of aura that silences a room. And I realized I had lost her long before she ever said goodbye. I thought I'd be a CEO, that she'd be my CEO's wife. How childish. My company is gone, my fortune scattered, and I'm left with nothing but memories that haunt me. Meanwhile, she walks the world as a diplomat, untouchable, untamed, exactly as she was meant to be. If I could turn back time, I'd throw away all my pride, every empty promise, every cruel word. I'd hold her hand tighter and never let go. But time doesn't wait for fools like me. Eva has moved forward, and I'm trapped in the ruins of what I destroyed with my own hands. I thought I was her anchor, but in truth, she was mine. And now that she's gone, I've drifted so far that I can no longer find my